access for Black brown farmers.
There you go. Now you're talking. Let's definitely bring that up. Okay, let's get it, man. Let's yeah, this is perfect.
Steven,
I think we got some ammo here.
Steven, can you move? Okay, just push that.
That's right here.
Yeah, there we go.
Like that. What about this? Maybe that right
That's
there.
fine, yeah. And then when we push record.
What's that?
Push record.
Oh, push record. Okay. All right.
Red.
Good. All right, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Big Green DAO Power Plant Podcast, where we're meeting with amazing folks here at the annual in Denver live for this conference, bringing so many different people together. So I am sitting next to Mr. Julius. Julius, welcome, brother. How's it going?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty well.
Okay, and so you operate and work in a nonprofit called Growing Hope. Before we talk about Growing Hope, I want to know, how did you get into this work around food systems and growing food and nature environment? How did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's both straightforward, but also I got there in a windy path. So I grew up in more or less the country of Michigan, north of where we're at now, outside of Detroit, and on farmland. And so I knew where pretty much all of my food was coming from up until about the age of 6. Either we were growing it or my neighbor was growing it. You know, we would barter, we would share things. We had very much so like a circular sharing economy in my neighborhood.
This was growing up?
That was growing up until about age 6. Left that space, moved to a more urban space, and had just a very different experience of food in the food system. Just with a lot more experience with food stamps at the time, and food banks, and experiencing what was available on that side. Fast forward into my adult years, I at this point didn't really think that I enjoyed fruits or vegetables, because I hadn't had like a fresh fruit or vegetable for 12 years. And started working in the nonprofit space in some different ways, primarily in education. Worked in the school system in some nonprofit schools, and really started thinking around how and engaging with young folks and the food that they were eating, either because I was in charge of ordering the food, I was in charge of cooking the food, or just like being present in the lunchroom. But then at the same time being involved in like school gardens and composting initiatives. And what really got me was experiencing, or even just seeing the things that as a public or private school, being funded for breakfast and lunch by USDA, the things that we were required to put on the plates for our young folks. So really, that just motivated me to figure out how to get more fresh food to our kids, how to make sure that they knew what like fresh greens or fresh cucumbers and whatever else tasted like, so that they wouldn't have an experience similar to mine, where they grow up thinking that like, I don't think that I like vegetables because they taste like salt.
Yeah, what you tasted was horrible. And like hearing your story, like I'm flashing back to when I was a kid, right, and going through a similar experience. And so, pretty much probably from like 1970 or 1980, like generations X, Y, and Z, the cafeteria food is just outrageous, right? Like I'm eating chicken nuggets, I'm eating some type of weird burger, I'm eating a pizza. Like as I look back, I'm like, clearly, right? Like that's part of the issue. And so I applaud you for saying, hey, like I see the situation, I'm working in the system, how can I change the system? Mm-hmm. And so where did that take you to, or did that connect you to Growing Hope?
Yeah, I mean, I knew of Growing Hope. Growing Hope's been around for a little over 2 decades in Ypsilanti, and I had friends who had worked there or volunteered at the organization in the past, and so I got connected sort of through them, and through the passion and interest that I had around like the advocacy pieces, and getting more engagement with young folks.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about Growing Hope. They're in Ypsilanti. What do they do? What are some of the programmings that you work on?
Yeah, so Growing Hope, like I said, it's been around for 20 years, and we have 4 main program areas that happen at 2 sites. One of our sites is our what we call the Ypsilanti Farmers Marketplace. So that's a space where we, throughout the year, host different farmers markets to support our local food system and our local growers, but also our local makers and other sort of value add producers, which is indoor, outdoor, online market currently.
Oh, really? Online as
Yep.
well?
Yeah, that was our main.
Tell me how that works. I'm very interested in it because I do farmers markets as an urban farmer, and it's a lot of time, right? Like from the time I got to get up, I got to pack everything, got to go. So, and I like it. And I think there's a purpose for the in real life like events, right? But tell me how your online market works.
Yeah, so the online market we started in 2020, and we didn't do in-person farmers markets, or didn't know if we were going to do in-person farmers markets. And folks can come. They go to our website. We've got somewhere between 40 and 60 vendors on there, and they just, as if they were set up in booths, go through and choose the things that they want, and then we aggregate it into a bag or a box, or depending on how much they have, and they pick it up once a week. So on the farmer side, you would get a list of here's 40
10 pounds
people
of this,
who
5
ordered
pounds of this,
X, Y,
yeah.
and Z, and you would just harvest that stuff, drop it off to us in the morning, and we would take care of aggregating it and
Wow.
getting it out to the people.
Wonderful. And so, are y'all taking a percentage of that sale, or how is that? How are y'all able to facilitate that?
Yeah, we do a mix. We have a percentage of the sale that goes to us for administrative, continuing to run the farmers market, since there's not like a booth fee or anything.
Sure.
We waive that or make it lower for food assistance, because we don't want people to use food assistance on program fees,
Okay.
so that goes directly to the food still.
Sure.
And then, as a nonprofit, continue to get supported by different organizations throughout our community.
Sure. No, I think it's much needed, and so we're exploring that in San Antonio. There's something similar in Clemson called the Clemson Area Food Exchange, and so it's just an online market. People are able to order, so it seems like a really good model. Okay, so doing farmers markets, you have 2 sites. What else?
Yeah, so also at that site we have an incubator kitchen, so supporting small businesses, folks who either started something in their kitchen or have an idea around how they can start a food business, a bakery. We have people doing spice mixes, teas, all sorts of things,
Okay.
and can have the opportunity to come in without having to place a ton of capital into their new business,
Sure.
and at least try. Because for a lot of folks who have ideas of being an entrepreneur, like you're not afforded that ability if you can't.
To be able to experiment without a ton of capital.
Yeah. So that's how we support those pieces of our food system. And then our other site is our farm. It's an 1.5 acre farm just outside of downtown, where we grow food with and for the community. It's both a production space, obviously, because it's a farm, but also very educational. Because in the end, our primary goal is to equip our community to interact with food and the food system through a lens of equity and as intimately as they're able to. So we have resources like a tool lending library in the space. We have educational spaces. We do workshops.
Yeah.
We grow seedlings for the community. So we have seedling distributions. We have a seed library.
Y'all are doing it, man.
Yeah. And then all the produce that we grow goes back into the community.
Okay. Is that part of the market or just separate distributions?
It's separate, so mostly for free. We do some sales to like a few restaurants, but
Sure.
trying to think again, if we're thinking about how we as an organization support our local food system, and we have this major program, the farmers market, that is to support local farmers. We don't want to then be also competing with them as an organization who has other places where we can get revenue.
Wonderful. So y'all have a 1.5 acre farm in Michigan doing this great work. What does the future look like for Growing Hope? Do y'all have any upcoming initiatives, or how can people plug into the work?
Yeah, so before I get to that, I don't want to miss a very important part of our work, which is, when we first started 20 years ago, we were doing primarily school gardens work.
Were you?
And so working with youth has been a part of our story as long as we've existed.
It's a must.
We continue to do that work. We continue to work with our farm to school committee. We have field trips on our farm, and probably one of our biggest initiatives that we host, and I think that is fairly unique for us, is what we call our teen leadership program. So about half of our staff is under the age of 18.
Wow, half of your staff, that's big.
Yeah.
Are you hiring from a specific school, or how did y'all create that pipeline?
Yeah, so it's from all of our students live in our city, in Ypsilanti. That is our primary requirement. When we do, we go to our local school system, Ypsilanti Community Schools, to do our recruiting, but we also have a lot of word of mouth at this point because we've been doing it for a while. And, just get a lot of kids involved. So we have 12 youth who are working. They do about 20 hours a week in the summer, and then it goes down to 6 to 8 during the school year.
It's like after school on the weekends.
Yeah, it varies a little bit more, and they're young and have 1,000 other things.
Sure, yeah,
that they
sports
have to balance.
games and
Yep.
this and that. It's like, all right, fit it in when you can.
Yeah.
Wow. So hiring youth is, I think, critical to this movement as well, because the youth are the ones that are going to pick up the mantle, right? Or we're going to pass the torch to. And we don't have to wait until they're 25 or 30 or whatever. Like, we can start them early. As soon as you can get a job, hey, you can come work at the farm. You can come get this knowledge, right? You can help out with the farmer's market. When I was a kid, like, these opportunities weren't there in San Antonio. So the fact that y'all are creating these opportunities, that's what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about in the other podcast, like, we're creating these things that maybe didn't exist for our communities prior.
Yeah.
You talk about food systems, and so, I sort of see it at multiple pillars, right? So there's like the production side, which y'all are doing. There's a processing side, which y'all are doing in the kitchen. There's a distribution side, which y'all are doing through the market, right? Y'all are really encompassing multiple components of the food system and creating those circular economies, creating those food hubs, creating those local and regional food systems is critical and where we need to head. So how do you feel Michigan or your region is in creating this like really robust local food system?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we have, as a state and as a region, we have a lot of assets to us. Like Detroit is a hub for urban agriculture. There's so many farms, there's so many people doing such great work. We have things like the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, and on the West Side Black Farmer Land Fund. And then I, Growing Hope, were one of the founding organizations of the Washtenaw County Black Farmers Land Fund. So we have all these things pouring into our local food system. We also have Michigan State University Extension, which is one of the leading extension offices, land-grant universities in the country, pouring into our regional local food system. With all of that, I'd say like the greatest change happens at the grassroots level. Systems change happens when we're doing it together, and can't be a top-down sort of movement. So I think that there's some stepping forward, stepping backward when having conversations through different entities trying to participate in this work. But I do think we're really uniquely situated, and even in our county, to zoom in a little bit more, Washtenaw County is a space where we have just like a high value for local food and our local food system. And so I think that we have the ability to serve in a lot of these ways as models and to create new systems that continue throughout our state and throughout our country.
Man, just unpacking that. And I've been to Detroit once, and I actually went because of Urban Ag, right? There's actually like a sort of a viral social media post that comes on of a little garden or farm in a community. And it's like, this is the nation's first agri-hood. I was like, I gotta go see this first agri-hood for myself. Which I give them props. Like, it's super dope. I think they have multiple acres and plots in there, so it's amazing. But I learned so much more beyond that as well. Some of the organizations you mentioned, I learned that in 07, 08, like the last major grocery store moved out. I learned about all these vacant lots that are out there and seeing them and seeing the opportunity that organizations and people have been able to gain access to land, right? And that's something that we're advocating for based off that model of like, hey, let's give people, multi-year, decades, land use agreements, and if they're good stewards, let's give them the deed to that property, right? So like, I think that is a form of land back. I think that's a form of distributing wealth, right? Land is truly wealth. And so I love seeing that. Did that just happen in Detroit, or did that happen in the periphery, in the peri-urban as well?
Yeah, the like land back sort of movement?
Well, just so what I was told is that some of these vacant lots were, people were given 10-year land use agreements on these lots, and then at the end of 10 years, the mayor or the city gave them those lots. I was told that that program is no longer happening anymore, but I did find out also about the auction. They have like a website in Detroit for land auctions, and there were lots for like $1,500. I'm like, what? I need to buy some land in Detroit, apparently.
That's primarily been like a Detroit area initiative, in part because land has been, as of late, a lot less expensive in the city of Detroit. Like you can't buy a lot for $1,500 or less. If you own a lot next door, it's even less than that. So like when we did our work with the Washtenaw County Black Farmers Land Fund, what we found is, we ran a cycle of fundraising. We raised about $150,000. We supported a little under 24 black farmers in our county doing really important work, with projects that really made some significant impacts for them as individuals and as their farm. But nobody purchased land because land in our county is just so expensive. Like we could have maybe provided a down payment for a farmer. So we've been thinking about different ways of engaging different entities, engaging our city and our township, really thinking about this land back as an end goal, but land access for both black and brown farmers, but also thinking around young farmers. Like we can't make any more land, and we're only getting fewer and fewer farmers. So there's already such few opportunities for beginning farmers and for black farmers to be able to even build, to have the knowledge base, to have the equity, to have the resources to be able to grow into farming, into agriculture. That we have to reimagine what we're doing with our space and with our land if we're gonna really like save and secure the health of our communities.
No, it's critical, man. And whether it's in Texas or whether it's in Michigan or in California, I think we're having similar crossroads. I think we have similar challenges, right? And so this learning community of the DAO, just speaking with you and understanding that we're having similar challenges, but when we work together and we have case examples, the opportunity for change and policy and advocacy is truly there. And so now I'm gonna be following what's going on up in your region, brother. How can people get into contact with you? And is there anything else you want the folks to know out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that we do. I feel like I could talk for a long time, but I don't want to do that. Getting in contact with me with Growing Hope. Our website's growinghope.net, where you can learn more about all of the programs that we do. You can subscribe to our newsletter that goes out once a month, trying to not be overly taxing, but also try to be like,
let people know what's going on.
Like an informative piece about like what's happening in our community, but also how we're engaging with what our values are with food and the food system in our community. Because when you throw around words like food justice and food sovereignty and equity and all of these things, and there's not, I don't think as a greater community we have a shared understanding of what these things mean. I think even as smaller communities we don't necessarily have a shared understanding of what these things mean. But we try to like honestly engage in conversation with everybody who we're in conversation with, whether it's our program participants, whether it's our neighbors, whether it's our funders, around what these values are and what they mean for us as an organization, as a community, that we're really gonna work towards, community self-determination.
The communication and that feedback loop and that dialogue and including people in decision making, right? That's how you create a community.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a good way to hear from us. If you are on Instagram, we're Growing the Hope.
Growing the Hope.
Because Growing Hope is a very common phrase.
Oh, yeah.
But Growing the Hope on Instagram, we're also on Facebook, and I don't know, our teens have been talking about getting on TikTok.
Shoot, I hear it.
But, we might be there soon.
And y'all's markets, when are those?
Our farmers market is Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll be in Depot Town and in downtown throughout the year. We run it from May until the end of December.
Okay. And then if people want to come volunteer at the farm, do you have a specific day for that?
Yeah, we have our most regular volunteer days on the farm are Tuesdays and Thursdays from, oh, don't quote me, Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon.
Okay.
We start folks with flipping compost.
There you go.
Which,
Step one.
yeah, no, it's a really great learning opportunity. Maybe this is my extra thing that I want to share. So we've, in the past year, really the past 2.5 years, built up our composting, our ability to compost on site. And this started from, as an organization, we think about how we can be and want to be like youth driven. Because like we said, the youth are like long-term systems change is going to start with our youth.
Generations.
Thinking about, we talk a lot about like building a foundation of generational health. And so our youth a couple of years ago had this vision or idea that they came up with along with some of our staff about creating a community compost. So we took our little 3-bin system, blew that apart, started doing piles with this long-term vision. And this is the first year, I think I keep saying we're in pilot mode because I don't want to like have everybody come.
Yeah.
But I think
Got some small batches.
Yeah, I think we're pretty out of pilot mode. We've got I think 25 households who bring compost to us once a week, and then maybe 4 businesses. And our farm, like I said, it's only 1.5 acres. So our capacity on this site isn't going to be huge. But I think we could be creating a model for how we could do it throughout our community, throughout our country, in a way that is, more local, more sustainable, doesn't necessarily require all of the big pieces of equipment that people can engage in. And people really love to compost. Like they love to compost.
I mean, man, it's an easy solution.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the easiest solutions that we can work on, man.
Yeah.
And so if everybody can figure that out, we can probably reduce our landfills, in the 10-20% range because there's just a ton of food waste.
Yeah.
So people can potentially get fresh compost or maybe bring their compost over to Growing Hope. Last question, I know I've said that multiple times, but if you had a garden sign, just one garden sign, to communicate a beautiful message, what would it say?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest and say that I've cheated on this a little bit because I've heard this question a couple of times today. But the first thing, I'll still go with the first thing that came to my mind, which was hope is a discipline, Miriam Kaba. As I think about, we are Growing Hope, that's the name of our organization, which I think means a lot of things, mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But I've heard this idea, I think it's important, like the discipline piece with what hope is. Because hope doesn't just come, it doesn't just land in your lap. And it's not just like this empty waiting like, oh, I planted a seed, I hope that I get a tree. It's showing up and being active and being involved and being reliant on one another in a way that helps us grow ourselves and grow our community.
I love that because a lot of my emails, I say, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. And like sometimes I want to switch it up and sometimes I don't, but I'm like, I really do intentionally hope that, but yeah, not to say that I'm disciplined because that's how I write. I need to write more, but cultivating a sense of desire, and that's what they say, there's another saying of like planting a garden is to have like hope in the future, right, situation. And so you do have to believe, you do have to have the faith, right, that this is going to happen and work towards that. So thank you for sharing with us, Julius. We really appreciate it. Y'all, go check them out. Growing Hope. Until next time. Adios.
Yeah.
All right, brother.